Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Catatonia's YouTube channel, starring me, the Mighty Cryono. This is Bosses Only, the video series where we look at just the bosses from a dungeon, because you're not stuck on trash, you're stuck on bosses. Allegedly. From the Scribes of Fate DLC, this is Scrivener's Hall, and unlike a lot of the more recent dungeons, this one doesn't have side bosses. It has some little hidden scamps that you can beat up for keys, and that'll be important much later in the dungeon, but for right now, let's begin with boss number 1, Riftmaster Naqri. And of course, let's activate the hard mode. Well, somebody in the group did it around the corner there, but there's an extra tough little challenge you can do by reading this little book here and burning it. So if you've done that, plus back there you can see the hard mode banners on, that makes the boss extra hard. I don't know, I don't really know what the difference is, but there is an achievement for burning that thing and then beating up the boss, which is what we're about to do. So what does this gentleman do? One of his main attacks is he's going to summon a tornado around himself with all these books swooshing and swirling around him, and there'll be little spiraling out circular AoEs on the ground, which on their own don't do a lot of damage, but if you're real close to the center of that storm and lots of them are hitting you, that damage can add up. So the best thing for the tank to do is once he summons that tornado around himself, pull him away, just go to one of the corners of this area, but keep the boss in this main central area. One mechanic that the boss is going to employ periodically is he's going to summon like a big ghostly book in the middle of the room, and two little balls will come flying out of it going to different sides of the room. Each of those balls will land on a book on one of the bookshelves on either side of the room, and if you look at the mini-map down there you can see it's a little bit of a maze. So a damage dealer will want to go after one and another damage dealer after the other, so that we can find those books and then interact with them to end the mechanic. So the fight is finally beginning. I guess we were talking strat or something. We'll beat him up for a minute and then you'll see, here we go, the tornado has been summoned, and here's the little circular AoEs coming out from it that we want to avoid. So ideally, like I said, the tank should be pulling him away from that so we don't have to deal with it, but for whatever reason, apparently I'm just keeping him right there. And as you can see, he summons these annoying little ads, which we'll have to deal with. So kill them. Now, he's summoning the green book. When he does that, an AoE will appear around your feet. It gradually fills up and then it explodes. Block at the last moment or dodge roll. And as you can see, here's one of the books that a ball was flying to. We've gone and got it. Let's not worry too much about the ad. We're doing this thing again. Dodge roll at the last second to avoid the damage. It can also be blocked. We want to take out the ads and work on the man again while we can. Now, one rather awful move that this guy does on hard mode is he'll teleport to a random point in the room, and right next to him on straight veteran and normal it's just one circle, but on hard mode like this you're going to see it's two. He'll have two green circles immediately next to him. Here we go, he's about to summon them. Get the tank into one, get the healer in the other. That way when they explode, nothing happens. If nobody's in them, they explode and it does a massive amount of damage. It'll probably kill everyone. It could even kill the tank. It's that damaging. So we want to make sure that the tank and the healer are getting in those circles when he summons them, so that when the explosion occurs, nothing happens. Yeah, we're chasing the ball again. It's the white book this time. You run over here, you find it on the shelf. Block or bash this annoying little man, go back to the middle, you can see the tank and the healer standing in the circles, and they explode on them. Very good. And again, he summons a tornado. This time the tank is pulling him away from it. Probably could have pulled him a bit further away than that, but this'll work. Yeah, ideally, the further away from the tornado, the better, because that way you're not having to worry about all those little circles. By the time they get out that far, they start to fade away, or there's enough space between them that you can just step right through. Summoning another book, the red one. So again, look for the ball. It's flying off somewhere into the room. There it is. Touch the book to end the mechanic. The other damage dealer will be looking for the other ball on the other side of the room. Once that's done, everybody meet up in the middle and again continue attacking the boss. And it is literally this, rinse and repeat. It's fairly straightforward once you have the mechanics down. The most important things are watching out for this tornado and keeping the boss away from it. And when the boss teleports and summons those two little green circles on the floor, two people need to get in them so that when they explode they don't do anything. Just get in them, hold block and wait. He's doing it here. Summons the two circles. Healer's in one, tank's in the other, kaboom, and nothing happens. Very dank. And let's continue working on the boss. We might have got him down enough that we don't need to worry about chasing the books and we can just finish him off at this point. There we go. Excellent and very dank. So loot your lockpicks and other rubbish, and get your achievements if it's your first time in here, which it was for us. And that achievement, harsh edit, that we got for burning that other little book. So whether that made the fight harder, I don't know. But here we are at boss number 2, Ozezan the Inferno, and this guy, let's turn on hard mode, of course. This guy seems pretty awful at first until you figure out what you're doing, and then this fight actually becomes a lot more straightforward than it appears. So the main thing with this guy is keeping him central. So this is a job for the tank. Try to keep him in the very middle of the room, because after you've been hitting him for a while, he's going to burrow into the ground, and when he does that, he will leave a pool of persistent lava behind wherever he was. So you want it in the center of the room. A lot of strategies involve deliberately laying these around the edge of the room because they stick around, but we find that just having one huge pool in the middle, even though it's actually lots stacked on top of each other, and it's really not something you want to touch because that's a lot of damage all stacked in one place. The reason for keeping it in the middle is it gives you more space to sort of run around and kite the various things that are going to be coming for you, and you don't want to be stuck between multiple pools of lava with nowhere to go during a situation like that. So ideally, tank, just keep all the lava in the middle. Always bring the boss back to the center after he burrows, and let him, every time he does go down, lay his new lava right on top of the old one, so it's always just one big pool in the center of the room. And you'll see that happen now. So we're gonna go in and taunt him and bring him to the center of the room, and we'll begin attacking him. And you'll see this guy, he's not as bad as he seems, not really. So we'll just start doing as much damage as we possibly can, and after a few seconds of this, here we go, he burrows down into the ground and leaves this huge pool of lava behind. Now he'll pop up somewhere around it, and he is going to fire this laser. You've seen this mechanic before if you've fought 𝕊𝕬𝕣𝕖 in Cloud Rest. You just need to kite it for a few seconds. Now on normal and straight veteran, only 2 people get chased by lasers, but on hard mode it's all 4 of us, so you want to kite around and not overlap each other and just avoid that damage. As you can see, he pukes out all these little tiny bug things, and after a while they turn into grown-up 𝕊𝕊𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒔. Now if this gets too much for you, you can run around the room and squash the bugs by running over them to stop too many of these giant 𝕊𝕊𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒔s from spawning. One of them will be doing a channel that throws fire at you that you want to just sort of block through. Now don't worry too much about the 𝕊𝕊𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒔s, just lay some AoEs at your feet, let them come to you, and continue mainly focusing the boss. Now for the tank, every time he burrows, bring him back to the center on top of his original pool of lava, and make sure you're standing roughly 90 degrees to the left or right of the rest of the group. The reason for that is he's got a big conal puke attack that he does, and you do not want that getting on the group because it'll kill him in no time. Once you've got him down to a certain percentage of health, this happens. Make sure you're right up against the wall, because he's going to suck you towards the center when he pops up, and if you touch the wall of flame in the middle, it's instant death. So be as far away as you can. That way, once you get sucked, you'll be dropped before you touch the wall. Again, the tank's brought him back to the center and is just sort of keeping him turned away from the group while he does his puke. Now, an extra mechanic that he only does on hard mode is there's a second type of laser, not like the one when he burrows and everybody has to run away, but one that puts an awful, massively damaging debuff on you that will strip your health away in seconds. And all you need to do actually is dodge roll a couple of times, because while it looks like a laser beam, he's actually spewing out these little balls, and it's those hitting you that give you the debuff. So dodge roll once and then dodge roll a second time to avoid getting that debuff. Again, kite the lasers, or just stand in them if you're feeling extra brave. And then tank, bring him back into the middle again. Our circle is a little bit misshapen, but we've still got all the lava roughly in one place, and that gives us the entire outside of the room to run around in should we need to, rather than there being pools of lava all around the edge. So keep him turned away from the group, let him puke on you. Don't worry too much about taunting 𝕊𝕊𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒔s. They are pretty quick to kill. One thing you do need to watch for is these voroplasm puke monster things. Make sure you kill those. If they get on the tank, they start just obliterating your stamina. Again, we've got the sucky mechanic. Get up against the wall, he sucks you in. If you land in the lava, immediately dodge roll out and hope that your healer is spraying heals on you, because that's a lot of persistent lava pools stacked on top of each other, and you are getting the damage for all of them if you're in them, which is no fun. Ulti's free. take out as many of these 𝕃𝕀𝕂𝔼 as you can, but remember, don't make these your primary focus. They're just annoying, but you really just need to be worrying about the boss. Just lay some AoEs at your feet and they will eventually die, so that they're not a priority. You could just see the red laser attack there. All you need to do is dodge roll again, avoid all the balls that come out, and you won't be hit with the mega debuff. We've got a 𝕃𝕀𝕂𝔼 channeling and throwing flames somewhere, so it's a lot to deal with. If you can ever spot those, make sure you interrupt them, just because it's one extra mechanic we could do without. And again, the 𝕊𝕐𝒂𝒎𝒔s, if they get on you, they start just decimating your resources, so make sure you do prioritize them. Now, when the boss gets pretty close to death, he's also going to summon an Iron Atronach. It'll pop up somewhere out of one of his lava pools. Tank just needs to taunt that. Don't worry about killing it, keep focusing on the boss, because it's going to die anyway. There we go, and he is going to summon a second one of these on hard mode a little bit closer to death. So keep your head on a swivel, Tank, and as soon as you see that Atro, taunt it as well. Meanwhile, same mechanic again, the boss pops up, he does his laser beam on everybody, try not to overlap them, kite around to avoid damage. Nope, we've had an accident. Let's see if we can get a res right there. Again, you need to do 2 dodge rolls to avoid the red laser, or more specifically, the balls that are hidden in the laser, because once they hit you, you've got a massive damaging debuff on you. Here comes some 𝕃𝕀𝕂𝔼s, don't worry about them, just let them die and cleave, focus on the boss. Remember, always stay on the boss's side while the tank is on his face, that way this big cone puke attack won't be a problem for you, only a problem for the tank, and as long as the tank is blocking, he won't have an issue either. 𝕊𝕐𝒂𝒎𝒔s, obviously, when they come along, make sure you make a point of taking them down. You don't want them stripping you of resources. But there we go. The boss is dead, so loot your lockpicks and manganese and alkahest and other totally useful dank things. As you can see, keeping the lava all in the center of the room and giving the group the entire run of the room if they need it to avoid anything is what we found to be a much easier way to do it than having the lava placed at the edges of the room, especially for that part where he goes to the center and starts sucking you in, because you don't want to have nowhere to stand during that part. But anyway, here we are at the final boss, which is actually sort of 2 bosses in one. We have Lamikhai, the spider, and Valinna, the lady. We'll be fighting Lamikhai first in this room, and we'll be fighting him to about 50% of his health, at which point he's going to disappear and that exit is going to open up, and we'll run down that tunnel to the second part of the fight, where for the first half of that room we'll be fighting Valinna, and then Lamikhai will return and we'll finish him off before we proceed to the third room to finish off Valinna. So it's spider, lady, if that makes sense. So for the first room, where you're just fighting the spider, this is actually pretty straightforward. It can be very chaotic, but it's all about positioning, and as we're going to see now, Tank, bring the boss over to this one corner, let loose your ultis, just start doing damage. Now, momentarily, everyone's going to get a rune above their head. You're all going to have a persistent raining fire AoE thing land at your feet. Go stack them all in that corner that the tank is in. Tank just needs to move a little, continue attacking. After a minute, the NPC that's with you will throw out an ice circle on the opposite corner of where the spider is standing. Drag the spider over there to freeze it for a second, and that gives you a bit of free time to burn. Again, you've got that rune above your head, place it in the very corner, because on straight vet and normal, I think it's only one person that gets that, and you can just place it at an edge. But on the hard mode, everybody, all 4 of you, are going to have that AoE above your head, and you don't want them all over the place. So everybody stack together in a corner to get it out of the way. Same thing again, we've all got the rune. We all go stand in the corner until it is placed on the floor, and then we get out of it. Again, the lady throws out a freezing circle on the opposite corner of where the spider is, so the tank, as soon as she throws it, needs to drag her over there, and then everybody gather around, stack up, do damage, and it is this over and over until the boss is at about 50% of its health, at which point this first room is over and we move on to the second stage. So, rune above your head, get in the corner, everybody stack your fire. One person was out of position, but it's okay, we are almost through with this phase. Same thing again, wait for the lady to throw the freezing circle, lead the spider over there, it freezes, you get a bit of free damage. Wait until there's a rain of fire rune above your head again, go stand right at the edge, all stacked together, that way they're all in one place and they're not covering the floor, you've got plenty of places to stand. And that's all there is to this first room. Just repeatedly do that. Tank hold the boss, everybody beat the boss up, use ultis as much as you want, do as much damage as you like, as quick as you can, and there we go, 50% health, the boss runs away. This web blocking the exit will catch fire, and you need to run up this tunnel. Don't worry about the spiders coming down, just run, because the entire tunnel is catching fire behind you, and if it catches up to you, you will die. So once everybody gets up here, ideally you want to go together but still be ahead of that advancing wall of flame, run down into this next room where Valinna is waiting for the next phase. So immolation trap, as you can see, 2 people. In general, it'll be the 2 damage dealers or whoever's furthest away, but not the tank. As long as the tank has taunt, will get these circles around them. Once they appear, do not step through them, they will explode and you will die. Also make sure that the 2 of you getting the circles spread out, because if the circles touch, they explode and you die. So for this reason, you can kind of see how the room sort of bulges in the middle. You want the 2 damage dealers to kind of occupy those 2 side spaces. That way when the immolation trap circles appear, you're nowhere near each other and there's no risk of them touching. Now, the boss's big flamethrower, the tank needs to point that away from the group because it leaves huge damaging fire circles on the floor. This only happens on hard mode. On normal and regular vet, you won't have the persistent circles after the flamethrower, just the flamethrower itself. But on hard mode, everywhere that the flamethrower has been, there will be these persistent AoEs on the ground that last for a while, and you want to make sure that they are sort of out of the way of the group and make sure you still have somewhere to stand. Now, the whole time, this rain of fire room above your head thing is still going to be happening. Every time you get one of those, just stack it very close to the edge, because you don't want to fill the center of the room. There's a reason for this, because once we've beaten the boss down to about half of her health, she's going to leave, and Lamikhai is coming back for the second half of his health bar. It's time to finish him off. Now, it's similar to the first fight. We've still got the runes to deal with. We're also still going to have the freezy circle. But one difference, you've just seen it there, is this web spinner. These will spawn and they will drag the furthest person away toward them. If it gets to them, they die. You've seen this before if you've done 𝕊𝕌𝔹𝕊ℂ𝄍𝒂𝒎𝒔 and you've seen the fight with Ulfnor and the ghost that chains you and drags you across the floor. It's exactly the same mechanic. So just kill that little spider as quickly as possible. And it's the same thing, except this time the tank is going to want to lead the spider across the room from one end to the other. And this is another reason we keep the damage dealers on either side, stacking all their stuff, so that there is a clear avenue for the tank to run through, because it's going to be the same thing. Fire rune, the spider attacks you, it enrages, the lady throws out a freezy circle on the opposite side, so make sure you're going long ways up and down the room from entrance to exit while the damage dealers are at the side, and the healer is free to go where he needs to pay attention to whoever needs it. Again, the spider has enraged, a freezy circle's been thrown out, the tank is going to taunt and drag the spider across the room. Once the spider gets frozen, and this applies in the first room as well, the enrage that's on the spider is then removed. It's cleared by getting frozen. And that's also a good thing, because when he's enraged, he hits harder, and that is not something you want to have to deal with. So always go for those freezy circles, but it does mean running back and forth across the room, and this is why we keep the damage dealers to the side. So now we're into the rhythm, we understand what's going on. When there's an immolation trap circle, just stay still until it goes away. When there's a rain of fire rune above your head, make sure you're standing at the edge of the room so that it places there and you've got plenty of space. When a web spinner spawns and drags whoever's furthest away towards it, make sure that that then becomes the priority. The healer could help too, and the other damage dealer is going to have to work quickly to free the one that's being dragged. Otherwise, that person is going to die. So we've got the immolation traps appearing again. Remember, do not step through the circle or you will die. You can actually time it right to dodge roll through and be free of it, but honestly, just stay where you are for safety. So the spider is dead. Way is open, and we are heading to the third and final room to finish off Valinna. And this is honestly not as tough as it at first seems. You've got a little bit of time to gather yourself here, because this final part won't happen until the tank taunts her, but once that happens, actually it looks like the Sork pets ran in and started that, never mind. We've got a couple of interesting mechs going on here. These rolling lava balls, you can see the track they're going to take before they drop, and one drops on either side of the room. We've still got the immolation trap. As you can see, Cartoqueen managed to dodge roll out of it before it was an issue. There's also going to be a meteor, and you've seen that mechanic if you've done the 𝕊𝕂𝕖 fight in Rockgrove. A meteor will come down, you've got a few seconds to destroy it, or you can just wait and let it explode, but make sure you're holding block and you should be able to survive it, especially if the healer is focusing on you. We've still got the Rain of Fire runes appearing above our head. Get them to the edge. Now for the tank needs to keep the boss as close to the edge as possible because of that flamethrower conal attack. You don't want that hitting the group. But remember, just like in the previous room, on hard mode, when she does this flamethrower, it leaves persistent flame circles all over the floor. So you'll need to kite around to make sure they're not all stacked and not all right where you're going to be, and then make sure you're in a bit of clear ground that's safe to stand on afterward. It's just a lot of fire, and obviously everybody needs to keep their eyes wide open for the potential of those rolling balls coming. As you can see, we've got immolation traps on everybody. That's obviously never a good thing, and we came pretty close to a wipe here, but fortunately we came out of it alive. Very nice clutch save. This is a tough fight. There is so much going on. As you can see, we've got a meteor on the ground now. Before it explodes, let's make sure we're blocking. And then it explodes and you're fine. If you're not blocking, we're probably going to die. Keep your eyes out for those tracks crisscrossing the room because they telegraph these rolling lava balls that are coming. If they hit you, they knock you flying. They can knock you off the edge. We've got a Rain of Fire rune. Make sure we're placing that near the edge. And keep your eye on the boss. The tank is still going to need to look everywhere he can for clear ground to stand on so that he can point that conal attack off the edge of the room and also have room to move around to place all the persistent fire circles that follow the flamethrower. Now those ones go away after a few seconds, but the raining fire, those are staying. Immolation trap once again. Oh, we've got knocked off the edge. That was a practice, and that's what happens if the meteor explodes and you're not blocking, which can happen to anyone, but probably happen to Cat because she's looking at chat. This is a clutch and important moment, madam. Pay attention. So, let's see if we can't get this res. Here we go. Nope. 𝕃𝕀𝕂𝕼𝕃𝒔 has stopped working. Not to worry, we're alive again. Let's get this res as quick as we can, especially on Mr. Blue Angel. That's our healer. We need him for medication. Did everybody die except the tank there? It would appear so. Nonetheless, we're all alive again. It's not a wipe. Here comes the meteor about to explode. Make sure you're blocking. Rain of Fire placed to the edge. Watch out for the rolling rocks. You don't want to be hit by them. As you can see, it's a tough fight. There's a lot that can go wrong. You can be hit by so many things all at once. But it's really just all about positioning and placement and watching where you're standing. Keep an eye on those rolling rocks. Make sure, tank, that you're keeping the lady pointed off the edge of the room, because you don't want that flamethrower conal attack hitting the group. And remember that it leaves persistent fire circles for a few seconds afterward, so you'll need to find a new place to stand. Ideally, you all want to be sort of working your way around the room. That way there's always somewhere to stand. But at this point, there's so much fire around the edges that we're running low on safe ground to stand on for the tank. Which just means you'll have to move in a bit, but still keep it pointed away. More rolling rocks, but we're almost done. Really, all you've got to do is watch your footing and throw everything you've got at this lady. It's definitely a tough fight, but it's not impossible. Another Rain of Fire placed. You see, this just keeps happening, and it will continue happening throughout the fight, so a lot of the ground becomes inaccessible over time. But there you go, we have got her. Good night, madam. Thank you for the lockpicks and star metal. And we're unlocking some achievements and things too, because this was our first time. So that's pretty dank. But we're not actually done. As I mentioned near the beginning, there are no side bosses in this dungeon, but there are some hidden scamps who drop keys, and when you collect those keys, there's 2 per dungeon, you can go to this little hidden room full of chests. And if you have, between the group, 20 keys, then upon using your 20th one, this extra hidden fire scamp boss will appear, and upon defeat, everyone in the group gets a map that leads them to a tool that will allow them to instantly detect the location of hidden scamps in future runs of the dungeon. So it's a nice little tool to have. Now for this boss itself, obviously you've already done the final boss at this point. This is just a little extra boss, and it's a fairly straightforward fight, honestly. He'll zip around the room, creating pillars of volcanic stuff that'll explode after a while, and those rolling rocks that we saw on hard mode Valinna, those are going to be making a return. Lots of fire AoE, but none of it is particularly awful. It doesn't hurt too much. You can see streaks of flame, circles of flame. The boss will teleport off somewhere, and here's his little totem mechanic. Just destroy that as quick as you can, because, you know, it fires out little fireballs, which are annoying. And then the boss is zipped over here and is surrounded by volcanic things. Just destroy those as quickly as you can, and then you can continue damaging the boss. More rolling rocks will probably come across the room. Look out for those, because if they hit you, you'll be knocked flying and stunned momentarily. Another totem, go destroy that. You don't want all these fireballs hitting you. And again, the boss is going to teleport somewhere in a streak of flame and be surrounded by a prison of volcanic willies, or whatever they are. Blow them up, and then you can continue hitting the boss. One time doing this boss fight, it actually teleported right on top of me, and I was trapped in the middle with it, with all those exploding things, and when they exploded, I just got insta-gibbed. So you definitely don't want to be right where the boss is when it summons all those things, or you'll just be trapped and you'll explode. But, you know, that could probably happen to anyone. Rolling rocks, watch out for those, destroy all the willies, and continue damaging the boss, and it's just this, rinse and repeat. It's a very, after dealing with Valinna and Lamikhai, this is just a breeze. Barely feels like a boss. It's more like just a very annoying ad with a very big health bar. But keep taking out the totems, avoid the rolling rocks and AoEs, destroy all the pillar willy things that it summons so you can keep damaging it, and eventually it will die. And when it does die, the nice thing about this is it is guaranteed everyone in the group will get the map that leads to the special tool for this dungeon. You can get it by chance opening vaults, but if collectively between you and everyone else in the group can spend 20 keys, that's 20 large keys or 20 small keys. You get the small keys if you do it on normal and you kill the hidden scamps. But they've all got to be the same kind, so it's either 20 small or 20 large, and when that's done, this boss will appear and you get a guarantee for getting that map that leads to the special tool. So it's worth collecting keys if you don't trust your chances with RNG. Now that it's dead, everybody gets the map. We already have it, so you don't see it in the loot table there. What you do see is a load of lockpicks and manganese and stuff. But now that that boss is dead, you've seen all the bosses in this dungeon, so go and kill them. And subscribe if you like what you see by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to click that bell to be notified the next time I actually get a video made. You can also check out Twitter, where there are tweets, or tweets, is that what they're called? And Instagram, which is great with pictures and all that sort of stuff. And the YouTube channel, which you're already on. And don't forget to check out the stream at twitch.tv/Cartoqueen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on Bosses Only.